We're back. It's Kovacs Report. Jimmy, say hello.
Angelo, hello.
Hello. What a strange week in comics, mate. What a strange week. Now, we were talking before about the quality of comics coming out, and I wanted to just ask, is it just me who hates everything, or is the quality of books from Marvel and DC pretty low?
I mean, Marvel, I can count the amount of books I look forward to every month on one hand, unfortunately. And that shouldn't be the case. You know, they've dominated the market, so I should be looking forward to every book, right?
Right. But it isn't,
no.
is it? Like all the sort of like flagship characters books, Amazing Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, Daredevil, they're just so poor. I miss those 2000 books, you know, where Brubaker, Bendis, and all those guys were doing stuff. It's just such a shame. Anyway, we're here to talk about this
I'm right there
comics.
with you, Mum.
I know you are, Jimmy. I remember those days fondly. So, Black Canary, best of the best. Now, as soon as I saw Tom King on this book, I was interested. But then Ryan Sook's little name popped up, and I was like, oh, he's an old favourite of mine. I love the stuff that he used to do, especially the covers back in the day. And I wonder where he's been in the meantime. But those two working on a book together meant I snatched it up without a second thought and without any knowledge of what it was about. So, what is it about? Let's get into it, right? So this story kicks off with two ringside commentators narrating. They narrate the entire issue as we build up to an intense MMA showdown between Black Canary and Lady Shiva, right? Their commentary, it sets the stakes as it goes to the book. There's no powers, there's no tricks allowed. It's just pure submission fight, right? So it's like you got to tap out to get out. And it's very, very heavy on the fact that Shiva is the favourite to win. You know, the bookies, they're all backing her. So Black Canary's already, you know, the odds are stacking up against her. So as the story unfolds, we shift to Black Canary's personal life, where weeks before the match, she moves in with her mother, the original Black Canary, to start training, right? So their reunion is warm and bittersweet, but we find out near the end of the issue that her mother's actually battling an aggressive cancer, so it starts adding motivation behind why Dean is doing this. So jumping back to the present, it's fight night, and as predicted, Shiva is absolutely dominating, right? She gains the upper hand really quickly. She's kicking the shit out of Black Canary. Black Canary tries some, you know, fancy moves, but it is just not working out. Now, as the fight rages on, we get another flashback that reveals Black Canary's motivation for agreeing to this fight in the first place, right? So she struck a deal with some shady racketeer to earn a fortune in money and a cure for her mother's cancer. As long as she takes the fall in the 6th round, she has to lose the fight. So she's throwing the fight. So this book was not what I expected at all. It is expertly written. It is beautifully drawn. And I got the feeling this was like something personal from Tom King's life, maybe. I think maybe something has happened in the past or the present, maybe someone he knows, friend, family, I don't know. But it feels like this whole idea has come from something real. And you feel it. You feel it. It's tense. The levels of emotion are just so high throughout the whole book. It's interesting, really interesting, right? So, and all this, I don't know, energy that's put into the emotion, you could feel Dina's love for her mother, right? She's willing to sacrifice everything, you know? I mean, she's a superhero, right? And she's willing to do something pretty bad. Now, although this book took a very long time to get to the point, you know, that why she's doing it, it also felt really strange that she wouldn't help from at least the Justice League, right? Or her partner, Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, right? They've got everything. Why didn't she ask them for help? It seems strange. She has access to anything she could possibly want, right? Medical care, the lot. So why she turned to sort of the criminal element to raise funds for the medical help that she needs? I don't get it. Maybe there's another twist to come. So I'm definitely on for issue 2 to find out what's behind all of this, because that was the only thing that was off-putting, really. I was like, it didn't make sense. So I think Tom King likes to make things not make sense because he's going to reveal something later. So despite that little shaky premise, it packs an emotional punch, delivers an engaging start, stakes are high, action's gripping, and the personal angle sets it apart, really. If you can overlook that, I can say that questionable setup, it's a strong opener, plenty of promise. I'm definitely on board for the next one. So give it a go. And look at that cover. Come on. How can you say no to that? She looks badass. Recommend from me. Okay, moving on. So I'm gonna do a little video on my own of this, which is why I wanted you to give us your thoughts for the show, because you had such a great number one, didn't we?
Yeah, Absolute Wonder Woman issue 2, published by DC, written by Kelly Thompson, with art and cover art there by Hayden Sherman. So last month, this creative team came out of nowhere with this book, and Angelo, they knocked my socks off.
Me too.
Even managing to steal Book of the Week from Transformers, which is no easy feat,
Woo.
as you all know.
I know.
That was issue 1. So how do I feel about issue 2? Well, last issue ended with Diana facing down a kaiju-sized Harbinger Prime, brandishing a wicked-looking red lasso. No lasso of truth here, Angelo.
No, I love the lasso. I love
this
it.
new weapon is dubbed Nemesis, forged in hell, infused by the powers of the gods and the remains of the last basilisk. It loops around her foe, burning with the intensity of the pain that Nemesis Prime has inflicted on others. Kind of like the penance stare from Ghost Rider in the 90s. And it forces its surrender. Admitting defeat, the beast slinks off into the sea. So far, so metal. But then Steve Trevor turns up, and it's a reunion of sorts, as we see a flashback years previously. Diana saved him from a Hydra attack in the underworld before she and her mother figure Cersei used her dark magic to nurse him back to health. Now, back to present day in Gateway City, Steve takes Diana to his commanding officer, who accuses the Amazon of being in league with the invaders. She explains that yes, she stopped it, but the clue is literally in its name. It's a harbinger of more bigger and powerful enemies to come, which the army and her must work together to defeat. We also learn that her awesome skeletal horse is the Pegasus of Greek myth, and she tells Trevor that it was slain by Zeus and resurrected by magic and sacrifice, just like he was. And then they're interrupted by the arrival of the Tetracide, a vast beast that Wonder Woman has described as death personified, urging Steve and the army to evacuate the city right now. Yeah, I absolutely love this. This definitely kept up the momentum from the first issue. Well done to Hayden Sherman and Kelly Thompson here. I'm on board for the rest of this arc, I think.
Absolutely. I love that little chat between her and Trevor about the horse. And he says, oh, what is it? It's a Pegasus. Now, I know it's a Pegasus, but what's his name? Pegasus. This is the original one. That was a nice little...
Pegasus.
Yeah, it was a nice little touch. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was as strong as the first issue. And I think that's because they were trying to sort of put in that... Do you know what? They did it really well, actually, right? They usually they do this big girl boss. She's big, she's tough, she can do what she wants. And they did that, but they did it the right way. You know, you got the feeling that she was strong, assertive, opinionated, but it wasn't.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, she wasn't drawn, for a better word, as some narcissistic feminist. It was really, really well done. Because they seem to get that kind of thing wrong. But yeah, I enjoyed it too, and the art was really nice. I think it really suits. It suits absolute Wonder Woman, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I loved it. I'm gonna do a nice review on that.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing your review, man.
Yeah, well, subscribe to the channel, mate. You can watch it. Just kidding. Okay, so moving on. Oh, Detective Comics 1091. DC, obviously. Now, this is Tom Taylor with art by Mikel Janín. Now, before I even give the review, and I'm going to do this again in the review, Mikel Janin's art in this book is sublime. Like, if I could have more books of Batman or anything like that with him in, I would jump. His art in this book just absolutely sets it apart.
He drew a lot of Tom King's run on Batman, which I read in the hospital a couple of weeks ago. Really, really cool.
Yeah, it's just so good. I absolutely love it. It just... I'll get into it in the review, but I just want to make a special note of the art. It's so cool. So this issue starts with Bruce Wayne agonizing over those 9 juvenile criminals who've been murdered by a new serial killer that's stalking Gotham, right? In the first installment. And that's made worse as he grapples with the offer and temptation of Sangral, this new super serum that promises to restore his youth. All right. So later that night, he meets Detective Bullock at the morgue as they have a little chat over the body of the kid Batman chased down last issue. All right. So it's clear he feels responsible for hitting this kid. But in all fairness, the kid, he did try and shoot a shopkeeper, right? So, Batman being Batman. But you could feel the guilt coming out of him because he was too slow to catch him before he was murdered by this serial killer. And that's really, really present in that scene. It's really tense. It's really good. So right at the beginning, you're feeling both of those stresses and strains in Batman's mind as it goes through. Now, before we get too deep into that, Oracle lets Batman know that Robin is in pursuit of a van that stashed another possible victim straight off the streets. So he hightails it out of there to intercept. Now, as he arrives, Robin is effortlessly kicking the living shit out of the gang of goons at the back of the van, right? And then Batman joins him, right? When he joins me, he notices that he feels a bit slower. Everything's a bit more laboured, and he acquires like a leg injury during the fight. And, and he also says, I feel more pain, it takes longer to heal from it. So this furthers his temptation to take this new miracle drug. And this scene is even more important, as it's not only pushing Bruce to take the drug, but you can feel that he's determined to not lose another kid, right? He owes it to the other 9 that he couldn't save, and you can feel his guilt. And it's not his fault, but, he's Batman. It's his city. He feels guilt for it. It's really, really well done. And it's all very subtle. So anyway, these goons are subdued, of course, and they discover actually it's the Penguin that's behind this kidnapping, not the serial killer. This kid, he stole some money, and, Penguin, he wants it back. So Batman decides he's going to go pay the Penguin a visit, and they're going to sort it all out as Robin hides the boy in some luxury hotel until it's safe for him to walk the streets again. So that was pretty cool. So before anything else happens, Batman seeks some advice about his youth-enhancing dilemma from Superman, who would naturally understand the implication of living longer, right, while others do not. This conversation, again, it really does, right? It's extremely well written, right? You can feel Bruce's internal conflict resonating off the page. And after some comforting words from Superman, Bruce just says, right, I need this drug. And he does. So he takes it. So he visits Scarlet, who's explained in the previous issue, and he has the Sangreal administered. And after a few hours rest, he decides to pay the Iceberg Lounge a little visit, right? He's going to go see Penguin. Now, he gets to test those increasingly youthful muscles because naturally, Penguin's door goons put up a fight. They're not going to let him in. He's not on the list. But he's already feeling the positive effects of the drug and he kicks shit out of them, right? He teaches them why he doesn't need an appointment to see old Cobblepot. But anyway, Cobblepot runs out and goes, stop. Anyway, they have a little chit-chat. Penguin tells Batman that the kid owes him money. What are you going to do about it? Batman tells him to leave the kid alone. And while he's there, he asks if he knows anything about this new serial killer terrorizing Gotham's youngest criminals, but he doesn't. He doesn't have any information. He has looked into it, but he knows nothing. Now, after reminding Penguin to leave the kid alone, Batman walks out, head high, ball swinging like he's king of the jungle, but it's not over yet. As the issue ends with the reveal of Asima, the scalpel-fingered serial killer, as she attacks the kid the dynamic duo saved earlier on in the issue, as he's watching TV in his secret hotel room, presumably becoming the 10th victim. Wow, right? I'm hooked. Taylor's absolutely nailed Batman, in my opinion. This is Batman, right? Add to that, like I said earlier, the beautiful art from Mikel Janín, who just seems to have this perfect synergy with Taylor. I mean, I know they've worked together before, but it's just like his words are breathing off the page through the art. It's absolutely so well done. I think what we have here is the beginning of an incredible run of Detective Comics, right? I think this is going to be one that everyone goes back to, everyone remembers, because it is so, so good. Now, there was a lot from the last issue that wasn't continued, such as like the Thomas Wayne, Joe Chill story, but that didn't detract from this book at all. And I'm sure that's all going to be coming down the line, and I cannot wait. As you might have already guessed it, I absolutely loved everything about this book. It's a must-read for every Batman fan. 100% recommend. Go get it, go read it, go love it. So, Jimmy, I know you've not read it yet, and I'm sorry I've told you what happened, but
that's okay.
I promise it won't spoil it because it is so, so good. All right, so amazing book. Look at that cover. Oh, there we go. Right, moving on to something I know you absolutely love.
Hell yeah.
Good old Turtles.
Yeah. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 4, published by IDW, written by Jason Aaron, with art by Chris Burnham and cover art there by Raphael Albuquerque. Each issue of this title has been an absolute delight so far, as Jason Aaron and a cavalcade of guest artists catches up with the heroes in the half shell, scattered globally after the death of Splinter and hunted by the evil ninjas of the Foot Clan. Now, last month, Leonardo was reunited with his brothers Raphael and Michelangelo in Japan, with them about to search for their missing brother Donatello. This is a companion piece of sorts to the short story by the same creative team in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha Issue 1. And we start beforehand, seeing that Donatello, frazzled by time travel and magic overuse, pulling himself away from his sensei's grave, and he's accompanied by another normal rat who Donnie believes is actually the reincarnation of Splinter. Then he stumbles across a truck full of mutant animal prisoners at a gas station, and they plead for him to free them. But as he's distracted, he's injected by an assailant, and he wakes up at the despicable Sunshine Safari, where rich lowlives pay to take their frustrations out on mutant prisoners. But he's got some wits left about him, volunteering himself for every bout, and knowing he can take it, stealing food for his fellow more vulnerable prisoners, and gathering valuable intel like how long the tasers take to charge, what the codes for the cells and the electric fences are. The next day, to his shock, he has to fight all of his disgruntled former opponents at the same time. They gang up, and in a rage, they beat 7 bales out of the weak, skinny mutant turtle. Somehow, he uses the last of his strength to fight back, overcoming the odds and putting his escape plan into action, evading the guards, opening the cells and gates. Freedom is in his sights, and then the aforementioned Foot Clan ninjas flood the compound. A massive battle ensues, with Donatello desperately battling the Foot to protect not only the prisoners, but also the same guards that previously tormented him. In the aftermath, his 3 turtle brothers arrive on the scene, ready to rescue him, only to find a triumphant Donnie standing tall, but having suffered a psychotic break. And he tells them that the rat on his shoulders, Splinter, is back from the dead, but in a cruel twist, his brothers note the rat has a shuriken right through its head, having been killed during the battle, a fact that Donatello seems unwilling to acknowledge as the issue ends. Hell yes, Jason Aaron.
That's dark.
This was an absolutely, dark, but with some really, really bleak humor as well. Just up there with the rest of the run. I can't wait to see what happens now. The Ninja Turtles are reunited, and if Donnie can ever come back to his former self, hugely recommend this issue.
Amazing. I need to get back into it. I've not really read it much since the 80s, early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah, this
early
arc,
90s.
man. This arc has been fantastic.
Amazing. I'm really glad when they take on a sort of big franchise property like that, and they do good with it. So, talking directly the opposite. Yeah, I know. Look. It's cool. Don't worry. I'm gonna be calm. I promise. Iron Man #2, Marvel. Spencer Ackerman, art by Julius Ohta. So Tony Stark in this book continues his downward spiral, making questionable calls while surrounded by a supporting cast who seem equally intent on self-sabotage. The issue attempts to build tension around Tony's efforts to rally the board of Stark Unlimited against the Roxxon buyout, but the logic holding it all together is as fragile as Tony's hastily thrown together armor. So, Tony starts by trying to sway board member Jack Kooning Jr. with a solid argument. Roxxon is drowning in debt, and a buyout would drag Stark Unlimited down. And if their shaky oil pipelines falter, it will just add more trouble to Stark Unlimited. So it's not a good idea, right? It's like, do not do it. Here's why. Jack agrees that it's risky, but he shrugs it off because, well, that's what the script needs, right? That's what this script needs to keep its ridiculous plot moving forward. Honestly, it's baffling. I'm using the word baffling, which I don't usually use, right? It's baffling that a multi-billion-dollar corporation's decision makers are portrayed as casually throwing logic out the window without even a hint of external manipulation, right? They're just, whatever, we know it's bad, we're going to do it anyway. Anyway, bearing in mind, Tony is drawn like this massive drug addict in this, does not look like Tony Stark. Honestly, he looks like a tramp off the street, no idea why. Anyway, next, Tony appeals to Melinda May, another board member, only to find her skeptical after hearing rumours of a Roxxon oil pipeline attack. Oh, what a surprise. I mentioned that earlier. Linked to Atara, right? Spoiler, Tony's behind it. Anyway, despite acknowledging Roxxon's instability, Melinda decides she can work from the inside to control AIM, Roxxon, and Justin Hammer. Now, Tony sharply points out her track record of failure with Orchis. And that goes back to the X-Men runs that were going on years ago. And while his comment hits hard, it's hard to argue against this point. Yet again, the story leans on bad decision-making to move the plot forward. Anyway, gets worse. Tony cobbles together this janky, retro-style suit of armor, from his West Coast days? I don't know. I couldn't care less. It feels more like a Mark I than cutting edge. And then he launches this completely unprovoked attack on an AIM research station, right? So some hired goon force, who flies out, and Tony and him start to have a bit of a tussle. Now, before it can get serious, AIM Scientist Supreme Monica Rapacin's secretary comes out and invites him in for lunch to have a nice chit-chat. Come in for a cup of tea and a nice chit-chat with the Scientist Supreme. All right, I'll come. Stop fighting. Then it can't be a trap, right? Anyway, he goes in there, and Tony completely fails to recognize Dr. Druid. Yeah, I know. Who cares? Dressed as the waiter. And has the whammy put on him, right? Where we have to suffer 6 pages of Tony reliving all his past failures as nightmare fuel to keep him from the board vote. I mean, come on. Is this shit for real? Yes. Yes, it is. That's what they did to keep him from getting to the board meeting on time. Honestly. So, now he's late for the board meeting. But Force, yeah, who, again, notices Tony has woken up, right? And they fight. And for no other reason, right, than, wow, check this out. It's so cool. Oh, my God, you're going to love what I've done with this book, right? Tony deploys this giant berserk-style cyberpunk sword and waves it there and goes, I've got a cool sword. And that's how the issue ends. I think Ackerman thinks, I'm a fucking genius, right? I'll put a giant big sword in it. I mean, fuck off Alan Moore. Right? Spencer Ackerman has arrived. You know what? Fuck off Alan Moore. Fuck off Bendis. Fuck off Ed Brubaker. Fuck off David Michelin. Fuck off anyone who's ever fucking written a Marvel book, right? Spencer Ackerman has arrived. And he's here to ruin Iron Man, right? This is the last Spencer Ackerman book I'm going to read. I gave it 2 issues to see if I could do it, right? I wanted to see, can he do old Shellhead any justice? And he can't. It's quite clear he has no fucking idea what he's doing. This is a personal story because he likes to fight against the corruption of capitalism, and he thought Iron Man's a good vehicle for that. But I don't have a story to tell. It's terrible. It relies on the characters, and Tony included, making completely nonsensical choices to justify a premise that's been done better before. If everyone needs to act out of character or abandon common sense to make the plot work, then this is the book for you. The foundation of this narrative is so shaky that no amount of flashy designs or nostalgic character cameos can save it. That's the end for me. I'm not going to touch this book until he's off it because it's ruined. It's absolutely terrible. Like even the art can't save it because the art is just it's shocking. It is not good. This is not Iron
I think
Man.
that's the right decision, Angelo. I think we should stop giving this guy airtime.
You know, I was going to say after I've got ASM reviewing this, I was going to say I'm going to try and stop reading these books that make me so angry. But I feel like I need to point out how bad they are. But you know what? I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to keep reviewing a terrible book. So I've got this new rule that I'm going to give it 2 issues, 2 issues, and then it's out. Because you know what? I'd rather fill these reviews with more positivity than negativity. But you know
Angelo,
what?
That's great news, man.
I know,
so
but
that means no more Ultimates.
I'm trying to save comics here, mate. You know, 1 review at a time. Okay, let's move on with something I know is bound to be good. Oh yeah.
Yes. Void Rivals issue 14, published by Image and Skybound, written by Robert Kirkman with art and cover art by the incredible Lorenzo De Felici. Void Rivals is the continuing saga of the Zetonians and Agorians, 2 collapsed planets of warring races around a ring of energon encircling a black hole. This is part of Kirkman's much-lauded Energon universe, where his own creations fit snugly with characters from the Transformers and G.I. Joe franchises in a beautiful sci-fi tapestry.
Ooh.
The huge secret is both races are actually identical. The higher-ups trying to prevent unity of any sort to prevent the coming of the Unicron-esque Goliath, who will end them both. So, this issue, Solila continues her quest exploring the ring in search of the Cybertronian god Zerta, while Derek is decked out with a brand new Handroid, because he gave his other one to Solila, Gauntlet Companion, and he discovers another Autobot fan favourite, Hot Rod.
Hey!
Yeah, from Transformers the movie.
Welcome to the party,
he's come
pal.
to the planet in search of He's come to the planet in search of others of his kind. Jetfire, if you'll recall, was discovered quite near this place in issue 1. And there's also a really cool moment where both Void Rivals meet in an out-of-body experience, catching each other up on the latest developments. I see what you did there, Kirkman. That was very, very clever. Unbeknown to Hot Rod and Derek, though, they're being tracked by the diabolical Quintessons, the original creators and slavers of the Transformers, as they, too, are searching for the mysterious Zerta Trion. Yeah, another absolute excellent tour de force here. Kirkman's building to something big in the Energon universe with this, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Recommended.
I don't think there's been one bad issue, has there?
There's not been a bad issue of Void Rivals or Transformers, no.
Amazing. I mean, listen, Kirkman could do it. There's lots of other writers out there that could do good books. I just wish they take note. So I'm glad that was a positive review. Right, wait. Stay back, Jim. Before I start, again, this will be my last amazing Spider-Man review until the creative team. Until the creative team or whatever's going on with this, what I think is like some bridge arcs to the real creative team.
It's not a run.
No, it's not a run. Much like Iron Man, I've given it 2 issues, and I just can't tolerate it anymore. Like I say, I want to make room for some decent books to review. So this will be the last issue. Now, the reason I'm so passionate about this is not only do I love comics, but Spider-Man and Iron Man are like my 2 favorites, and they've been with me for, 40 years. So I think I'm just a bit too emotionally attached. Anyway, let's get into it. Last issue, Spider-Man faced off against a demon. Spidey was given some magic powers and a new magic suit to boot by Doctor Doom, who's the new Sorcerer Supreme. And the plot revealed that Earth's champion must battle Cytorak's 8 demon children in a magical Mortal Kombat. Right? That's basically plot. That's what this is all about. Also,
that's generous, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to be calm. Also, he was giving these 8 magic reeds that can bring him back from the dead if he died, which he did. And here we are again, issue 2. Spidey. And suddenly out of absolutely nowhere, Black Cat, alongside the astral projection of Doctor Doom, are breaking out of the Sanctorium with a stolen spellbook. Why? I don't know. Joe Kelly doesn't bother telling us. So he just throws it into the aftermath of some magical heist with zero setup. Apparently, Spidey decided he needed a crash course in wizardry to prep for the next 7 demon smackdowns. But hold on. Why is this even necessary? Isn't Doctor Doom helping Spidey? Why involve Black Cat in the theft if her sole contribution to this was just being present? And Doctor Strange? He's still floating around as an astral hologram, right? Even though his vampire drama was resolved forever ago, right?
Yes,
Wouldn't it make
was.
Wouldn't it make more sense for Strange to stick around and, I don't know, teach Peter magic instead of handing him a book? I mean, he's Doctor Strange, right? Who would be a better teacher? Anyway, meanwhile, Cytorak's 7 demon kids are having a little family meeting. Someone to prove their worth by winning the fight. Obviously, this whole deal as like a loophole to exploit something or rather. Interesting, kind of. Relevant, barely. Cut to Peter Parker at home eating pizza with, surprise, Norman Osborn. Why? Because plot. That's why. Anyway, over slices, and some really bad humour, Peter studies this new spell book while Norman, ever the skeptic, grumbles about how magic isn't real. After all he's seen, he doesn't believe magic is real. And this is how Peter literally floats an enchanted spell book in front of him. Then, in classic awkward Norman fashion, he drops a bombshell. Oscorp is no more. It's shot down. Poof, gone. But does Norman explain what happens to all his goblin gear or the untold billions of tech? Nope, just a casual mic drop about dismantling one of the biggest threats in Marvel history. And we move on like it's nothing. So, Peter doesn't even get to process that huge revelation because he's late to meet Aunt May, as normal. But when he steps out of his apartment, he's instantly teleported into a sports field, decked out in his arcane armor, face to face with the next demon spawn, Cyperion. Now, this one can bend space-time like a Rubik's Cube, right? And Spidey's challenge is simple. Touch him. He needs to touch him to defeat him. It sounds easy until you realise Hyperion can shred you into infinite pieces and scatter them across dimensions, right? And then you're treated to this real heavy dose of pseudoscience about recursive reality and space-time models, a vague and trippy death scene, and the inevitable death of another of Cytorak's demon kids. Yawn. I have no idea what Joe Kelly is doing when he wrote the script. It's a jumbled, confusing mess. Honestly, the humour is off, the big fights are boring, and the narrative cohesion is weaker than Spidey's webbing on a rainy day. Critical developments are tossed in without context or build-up, and, as I said last review, the predictability of the plot. 8 demons, 8 reads, 8 deaths. It's called 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. It's practically a spoiler for the next few issues, right? You might as well just skip to part 8 or 9. It's terrible. It's the last ASM reading till another creative team comes onto it because they're not doing it justice. It's so opposite of Spidey, and I don't care what Reddit is saying about how good these books are. They're not. I think these people are delusional. They don't want to admit that they've made a bad purchase. They don't want to admit that their favourite character is being terribly written. It's trash. It is absolute bin liners. So again, Iron Man and Spider-Man are off the table. I'm going to fill those slots with something much more positive and much more fun. Moving on. Now, tell me this is good.
Uncanny X-Men issue 6, published by Marvel, written by Gail Simone, with art by Javier Garrón, and cover art by David Marquez. Now, remember I said I can count the amount of books I look forward to from Marvel on one hand. This is undoubtedly the book I look forward to most from Marvel right now. So in the aftermath of the first story arc in this new run of Uncanny X-Men, we catch up with Rogue's team of mutants consisting of herself, Gambit, Jubilee, Wolverine, and Nightcrawler, as well as the 4 new mutants they've taken under their wing, the Outliers. And they're all staying at the Haven farmhouse with the family of Gambit's old friend in Louisiana. Now, after Gambit manages to convince the in-denial Calico that she is in fact a mutant, despite what her domineering mother taught her, the Outliers were all given sack lunches and sent off for their first day at school, which goes as well as you might expect. They tangle with the inevitable school bullies, fail to keep a low profile, as Calico is now separated from a powerful horse counterpart and easily subdued and captured by the goons from Grey Malkin prison. Finally made their move. A trip into town to buy groceries for Jubilee and Nightcrawler is just as eventful, as stopping to help save townsfolk from accidental death. This distracts the fuzzy blue elf, and a mutant team of trustees from Grey Malkin arrive. It's Siren, Blob, and Toad. They overpower and take Jubilee into their custody, leaving a grisly blood-red trail in their wake. Now, back at Haven, Rogue realizes that recovering Wolverine, currently reeling from the realization that all of his army buddies are dead and he's the last man standing, he might be immortal, his body might be able to recover from any physical attack, but the same cannot be said about his heart and mind. And she tells him to his shock she thinks he has PTSD. Now, this is to be continued in true Marvel crossover fashion in the pages of X-Men 8 and Uncanny X-Men 7. We're going full crossover starting next week.
So I know what you're reading next week.
So, yeah, I really enjoyed this issue. Gail hits it out the park again. She's uncomparable at Marvel at the moment. Javier Garrón is... I don't want to slag the guy. He's a decent enough artist, but he's not David Marquez. And coming off 5 issues in a row of David Marquez, this felt like a slight come down. Sorry, Javier, if you're watching this, but I'm looking forward to David coming back next issue. But on the whole, yeah, really enjoyed it. Recommend it. Great issue.
You know what? It's like Mikel Janín with Tom in Detective Comics. You know, it's like when you get that artist, that right artist for that book, anything else, even as good as it might be, just doesn't feel the same, does it? Yeah.
I mean, I think it comes down to Marvel have committed to publishing 18 issues of both X-Men and Uncanny X-Men a year. And I don't think either of the artists, unfortunately, can cope with that workload, which is a real shame because, you know, consistency is great. I think David Marquez is doing the next issue, but then the next 3 he's not doing. So I don't know whether he's preparing for the arc after this or what, but really looking forward to the attack on Grey Malkin that starts next week.
Yeah, it could be. When I had my book out with Image, you know, and we were doing it month by month. The artist, you know, he was working till 3-4 in the morning. I mean, he also had like a day job as well. And it's like you can't, of that quality, you can't pump out that much work month in, month out for that many issues, you know, otherwise it loses quality.
No, yeah, I get that.
You're probably sharing the workload, but he is greatly missed in this book. Fantastic. That's all the reviews for this week. Like I say, next week I'm going to avoid Ultimates because you know it's going to be terrible, right? I'm probably going to avoid Wolverine, but I tell you what I'm most looking forward to. But we'll get to books. We'll get to books of the week in a minute. We'll get to books of the week in a minute. I want to end with that. Yeah.
Go on.
As well on the subject of good and bad books. So, what have we got next week, Jim? We got Absolute Superman 2, which I think are you reviewing that one?
It's not on my list.
Okay, Batgirl 2 is going to be, looks like it's going to continue being great. Birds of Prey, there's loads of new number ones. The Power Fantasy, I think number 5 comes out. Please catch up on that book if you've not read it, because honestly, it's one of the best books I've read in donkeys. So what else are you looking forward to? Oh, Two-Face one's out as well.
Well, obviously, I'm going back to Jed MacKay's X-Men because we're kicking off the start of Attack on Grey Malkin, Raid on Grey Malkin crossover thing. So that's really cool. But also, what I'm really looking forward to is Deadpool and Wolverine Weapon Extraction, which is a one-shot written by Ryan North. And I love this work on Squirrel Girl. He's also penning the big Doom crossover thing that's coming up next year as well. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing what he can do with Deadpool and Wolverine. I've got faith in him. This will be funny.
Okay, so there's some good books coming out next week. So let's end on Book of the Week. Jimmy, for you?
Okay. Well, my book of the week was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 4.
Wow, beat out Void Rivals.
Yeah. Yes, it beat Void Rivals.
Wow.
I'm sorry, Gail. It beat Uncanny X-Men and Absolute Wonder Woman as well. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 4. I absolutely love this arc. I can't wait to see what Jason Aaron does next. It's going to be amazing.
Okay, for me, you've probably guessed already. It's got to be Detective Comics. Absolutely outshines anything else that's come out from DC in a long time. It is brilliant and I love it. So that's it for this week. We'll be back next week. Please subscribe, please share, please do everything that can help us grow the channel. So until then, say goodbye, Jim.
Bye, Jim.
Bye, Jim. Take care, guys. See you next time.